Okay, I just recorded like a whole video kind of showing everything and then Loom didn't capture my microphone for whatever reason. Bot broken, I don't know. So let's make this shorter just in case it happens again. So finishing everything up now, I'll kind of show you what's going on, what's new, and everything like that. And kind of really the last pieces here is I need to build out like one or two more things, and then I need to test new infrastructre. So we're moving to a wallet infrastructure for rebilling so that you're able to use your own Stripe account, not a connected account. So you're actually OAuthing into your Stripe account. The products will be created in your Stripe account. Those transactions will be in your Stripe account. All that money will be in your Stripe account. Very, very cool, right? Just how HighLevel does it. So voice minutes, everything like that will be credited to the agency's wallet. So they'll be charged to you. Now, you can, if you're running SMA, whatever, you can take that and just call it cost of goods. You can take that and you can bill them just to clear your expenses, or you can bill them, with margin so that you can make money on voice minutes that are processed. So it'll work just like how HighLevel does. And the reason we did this is even though the Express it did what it was supposed to do, some international users, some had trouble connecting with it. For example, Brazil. I spent hours on support calls with Stripe. The answer I get is I'm not sure. So instead of taking I'm not sure, I just did OAuth. And so I have to make sure that infrastructure is proper because it does allow for things like recharging cards, all that fun stuff. And that's all done. You can even see by call ID and by price ID with voice minutes and things like that too. And so the other thing is everything's cleaned up along with rebilling. The granular management of sub accounts, right? So access control, access management is all in here. So we're able to take people out. We're able to deny them. You won't be able to get into the account unless you have access by the agency owner. I'm able to lock the account. I'm able to open a new tab. If I'm not logged into that new tab or that domain, I'm able to log in properly, come back, and I'm good to go, right? There's settings for that as well. Turn on rebilling. I can convert this to SaaS. Again, this will all be done in your Stripe account. So if you're converting it to a SaaS, that just means you're throwing a plan on top of it. And if you're just doing rebilling, that means costs that come to you will just get rebuilt to them either at cost or more. Let's see what else from the AI portal here. As you can see, just a lot easier UX UI. Trying to make everything a little bit more robust, easier to manage. So you can even see assistants have a lot more options. You can take bot ID there and you can import bot ID. And then access control and security is like a huge thing with this, right? So say I have this one assistant that I want to protect here, has company information. I can prevent a copy. And so if someone is watching my YouTube videos and writes down my ID, you can't copy it, right? So granular management and things like that, right? So you can duplicate it, you can rename it, move it to a folder, move it out of a folder, whatever you want to do, you can do here, right? Contact. So I see a lot of stuff about the orb. Of course, it's main focus, right? And a lot of the calling infrastructure around here is really, really beefed up. So there's a lot more data collected, and there's a lot more data that's going to be fed to you. Example is for if you run it through the GoHighLevel workflow action, we see the campaign ID and is now classified by campaign ID. So you can see which campaign you're running is doing the best as far as calls with the costs associated and appointments booked. Those are all data types that'll be in there, and those will be thrown not only in a call center tab that you can go look at, but in the inbox where the conversation happens will be thrown in with them along with tool calls so that you can check that. All right. Orb, booking, double voice, all that's good to go. And the reason we were able to do that is we did an internal contact structure where, as traditionally, we just kind of piggyback off of HighLevel stuff. It causes latency. Like, for example, on inbound calling, if you ever notice one fail every now and then, it's because the window that we have to get the information back to the call itself and then register the call and answer, right, is a little longer than we'd like it to be. It's usually just communicating with HighLevel and creating and recommunicating, right? So what we're doing is we just have an internal contact structure. We'll just create the contact and then we'll link it up with HighLevel later and it'll be self-referencing. Makes it super easy. That's how the orb works, right? I can even see how many times they visited. I can see the appointments booked by it. I can see the information collected by it. And then that's all pushed to HighLevel really, really easy. So pretty fun there. Also, things like at the account level, being able to connect to GoHighLevel, and obviously it's preferred you do it at the agency level, but if you need to at the sub account level here. Now, this was in there before. Like all of this has kind of been in there before, but there's been certain parameters to trigger it. But we're just going to put it all in front of you because the idea of this one is this has become an enterprise product. So we're going to give you enterprise solution here, right? So again, access control and management, all cleaned up, good to go. Not really much has changed, maybe the look of something, but the idea of like the infrastructure behind it is what's really strong on this stuff. Numbers, everything in here now is tooltipped and has a tutorial attached. So there's no like discrepancy in like what do I do here. Even to the client that you may be doing this in, if this is a SaaS offer, they'll have some insight into what they should be doing and how to do it, right? A good example is here in the workspace. If we come here, we can see, click through demo. That's also open in a new tab, and it's all white label, gray label, whatever you want to call it. That's all done there. So anything that you do, you'll have information on how to do it. For example, importing a number is like a big one, right? Like SIP trunking is not necessarily easy, and like I created a brand new Twilio this morning just to kind of play around with it and make some content over it. And for example, my calls were failing. But were my calls failing because of the system? No, my calls were failing because I didn't do my identity in Twilio. So it's kind of a tough thing to kind of triage, and that's why we're putting this information in front of you so that you can triage it. For example, importing a number, if you're having trouble, it's in Twilio. Go look at Twilio logs. That's just a good example of like where to find things, how to find them, making you self-sufficient, making you a really good AI automation agency or whatever you classify yourself as. So the idea of this update is to make the infrastructure extremely reliable, to make the infrastructure of deployment extremely easy and robust, right? With just the options of being able to rebill, convert to SaaS, like make them pay to have an account, right? And then being able to do access control, all that stuff at a granular level. That's all in here now and very torture tested. And then the idea, even behind rebilling, right, is like we're just going to let you do yours, and we're going to do a wallet. It's the whole idea is really strengthening infrastructure. Example. So this is kind of a multi-part update, right? So you'll get this stuff here hopefully today after I can finish up testing the actual like wallet balances and everything like that, making sure we have checks and balances, no pun intended, but checks and balances on a lot of that stuff, just to make sure that everything's clean and good to go. But the second part will be over rate limiting and like infrastructure access, things like that. So, a lot, like we get a lot of requests, like a lot of requests. And we'll be cleaning up a lot of that traffic to make sure that there is priority in that traffic for those who are actively deploying and those who are just sending traffic just to send traffic. It'll be queued. There will be a queuing system. So that way we should never run into rate limits. We should never run into error on rate limiting after that, right? So this comes out making agency deployment and AI building much easier. Orbs, importing phone numbers, call center analytics, things like that. Data going back to HighLevel. We're sending a lot more data back to HighLevel on things like calls, and then being a lot more transparent in that stuff. But anyways, this is this update. Like I said, I had like a 15-20 minute video before that kind of went through everything in granularity. And I'm sure somebody's going to ask about, well, what about this? Sure. We'll get there. Like seriously, this was super intensive. If you only knew the hours that were put into this. I mean, even today, I think we're running about 24 hours solid right now, going into what is Monday morning now. But just with the idea of like, I want you to have this. I want you to have something really, really good. I want you to have something to be proud of, and I want you to have something you can go out there, you can make tangible money with, right? In your own Stripe account. Now that will just do a lot. But that's kind of what I'm working on now. Really, the only things that I need to do is I need to build out like one or two more things, like actually build them out. I need to test a few more things, like wallet infrastructure, making sure we have checks and balances on it. And then I need to go back and do a safety check and parameter check on everything, making sure all these scenarios are accounted for. There's 4 user types in the platform. We need to make sure none of them get mixed up. And so we'll kind of audit through and make sure that all the paths that someone may go down in something like this is easy and good to go. So there's your update. That's what I'm working on right now. As you can see, coming along quite nicely. And I hope that like things like the, connecting your own Stripe account to be able to rebuild a client's is exciting. That's why, I'm taking much longer on this one, just for the fact of, really creating robust solutions behind it. So we don't have to worry about this stuff anymore. We can just worry about resourcing, right? Now that CopyBot by ID is in there, we can just build stuff and give it to you. So that's the update. I'm sure I'll get asked when, where, what on some stuff, but I think I covered most of it. And I'm sure if I didn't, I'm sure it's in there. So I'm gonna get back to it. I'm gonna try to knock it out. My hope is before my hope was like last weekend, but the more I dive into it, the more safety parameters I want to put into it, the more effort I want to put into some of this stuff too, just to make sure that it's super reliable. For example, security and access management was kind of a big thing on this one. But we'll see depending on how the safety checks go and how checks and balances go. And after some test runs with some test users in like the new Stripe account integrations, making sure that everything's good to go and we're accounting for all scenarios. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that's fun. I hope that's cool. As you can see, everything's pretty much done. Oh, even like default admin snapshot. So if you're not even running a SaaS model, but you want to kind of scale out deployment, being able to do access control and like limiting here. So the other thing was like hard limits, right? Managing limits. Like these are hard limits. So I put in, 45 minutes of calling for the month. They can call 45 minutes and that's it. Like that is it. It is a hard shut off. And they get a note in high level that says it's a hard shut off. And they get a big red banner at the top letting them know they hit their limits. So like that's the stuff that's getting cleaned up, right? The stuff that really kind of comes down to nitty gritty of like a deployment. This is the stuff that's being done. All in the hopes that, again, it makes it super easy for you, it makes it super robust for you, and it makes you, not only a better business owner, but it gives you some differentiation and it gives you a new revenue stream in a real meaningful way, right? And hopefully a new skill too. So I'm trying to think, what else is somebody going to ask? Inbound calling, yes. Context is going to be fed into the conversation logs on both inbound and outbound. We'll take a summary of the conversation. The summary is going to be kind of hosted at all times to be fed to calls for context. Extractions, yes, extractions. And that's kind of where the like internal contact structure comes in and is really helpful, is because we're just able to fill it to hours so much easier than an integration. And then through our own data, fill the integration, if that makes sense. What else? Multi-calendar booking, maybe. That may be like an end of the week type thing. But you see, most of the stuff we're just good to go. Like I said, I just need to build out one or two more things, safety check the rest of the stuff, and then we'll be off to the races. And again, multi-parter. So this will come out. Then the infrastructure that the integration kind of sits on will be more robust. The rate limiting and everything like that will be taken care of. What else? Oh, calling after calls to disposition is not only fed to you in the call center tab, but all contacts will be tagged with their disposition. So user hung up, appointment booked, whatever, right? That'll all be sent to high level. You can use it as a trigger for a workflow. So the whole idea is more robust. So hopefully that's helpful. 15 minutes is long enough. I'm going to get back to it. I'll send you updates as I have them. Hopefully everything right here is exciting. Johnny, yes, the chat widget will work on it, but it's not like we'll work on it. All right. There's a lot going on here. So we'll be happy with the orb, and then chat widget will come soon. There's plenty of them in high level. They're good, but we'll get to play around with the orbs a lot more now. Now that this is done, we'll get to do a lot more build outs. We'll get to do a lot more of the fun stuff like orbs and lead magnets. I already have a lot of this stuff written down and planned. So yes, coming. But hopefully that's helpful. Talk soon.